Okay, we're continuing with the book here, The Best of the West in Art, Music, Movies, and Books. The best medical books ever written. We're on page 183, and this is basically, I wrote a book previously called The Top 50 Books in Health and Nutrition. I gave a lecture about it. You can see the whole lecture if you want over at VegSource. I'm going to go through these. They're not in order specifically by their rank. They're kind of grouped by topic. So probably the best introductory book to nutrition would be Starch Solution by Dr. McDougall. Okay, he figured out the starch diet, low-fat vegan starch-based diet cures almost all the Western diseases, like 90% of hypertension, about 90% or to close to 100% of type 2 diabetes. A lot of times a person might have type 1.5 and they might not be fully cured. Digestive Tune-Up, very good book about what's going on in the abdomen. It's sort of like the equivalent of Prevent and Reverse Digestive Diseases. Okay. John McDougall, the doctor who fought for you. I wrote a summary. I went, because he was the greatest doctor that ever lived. I want to be the best doctor in the world. I think I am now. So I had to learn everything that I could from Dr. McDougall. So I went through all his videos, all his books, and then I wrote a summary of his life and his work and indexed it for anybody that wants to come along and learn all that stuff. And remember what McDougall said. McDougall says, don't even debate food with me until you have read Pritikin and Kempner and Burkitt. Okay, and really you should know Swank too. I mean, until you've read that, but especially he emphasized Pritikin and Kempner. Don't even bother me. I mean, if you haven't read Pritikin and Kempner, then you really don't know what you're talking about, and there's not really much of a point in going over all this baby stuff with you. Next one would be Dennis Burkitt, Magnificent Biography by Ethel Nelson. I think she was also a doctor. About his Christian missionary work. He's an Irish Christian missionary in Africa, and he's like, well, gee. None of these Africans, they don't got any of the Western diseases. They don't have constipation, all the abdominal pressure syndrome stuff, diverticulosis, diverticulitis, associated constipation, occlusion of the appendix, appendicitis, colon cancer, gallbladder disease, hemorrhoids, varicocele, varicose veins in the legs. Okay, and also the same thing for hypertension. Look at the paper, Dennison paper from Lancet Journal in 1929. 1,800 consecutive adult black men in Kenya admitted to the hospital, their blood pressure checked. Incidence of hypertension, 0. None of them. They eat a lot of sweet potatoes over there. In USA, that'd be about 80% of them would have been hypertensive, adult black men. The average blood pressure of a Kenyan adult black man in 1929 was like 107/67. It's like a newborn, practically, like a teenager. It's magnificent. Whereas the average blood pressure of a Western man visiting of 60 years of age was 140/90, mild hypertension. Okay, next would be Walter Kempner, his biography by Barbara Newborg. She was a young lady doctor that worked with him, said he was the greatest genius she ever met in her life. Blood Viscosity by Gregory Sloop, MD, the pioneer of atherothrombosis theory. By the way, I made videos about all of these people, all these books. I made book reviews, detailed discussions of all these books, so you can watch all the videos here at my channel if you like. I think I have a playlist for book reviews. Okay, and I did make videos from that book, Top 50 Health and Nutrition Books Ever Made. Okay, next one is High Blood Pressure Solution by Richard Moore. That's a great book to read to learn ion pumps, because once you get more of a sense of ion pumps, then you can think more intelligently about hypertension. So those are two big issues in hypertension. Avoid dietary fat, because it sticks the red cells together, makes your blood thick. You're pumping a milkshake up to the top of your brain, your cerebral cortex. And maximize your K factor, your ratio of potassium to sodium, because that's what you need for vasodilation. And when you eat the plants, you not only get the potassium, you also get the magnesium. Okay, next big masterpiece book is Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. Dr. McDougall said that Esselstyn's book will be the bestseller in health for all of time. And he's probably right. Again, Esselstyn, he's a smart guy. He looked around and he said, gee, in all the countries that eat a low-fat vegan diet or close to it, they don't ever get coronary heart disease. Maybe if we did that with patients here in the USA, they would get better. And they did. Esselstyn said, of anybody who actually truly follows this diet, he's never seen a single one have a recurrent cardiovascular event. That's a pretty extraordinary statement. That's more than 30 times better than the closest results of any other study, like the so-called optimized vegetarian diet, the Lyon study. Okay, we're going to just do this one page here. So we'll do a couple more. I think that'll be the last one when we get to Roy Taylor. Okay, prevent medical reformation and vegan renaissance by myself. Okay, me, Pete Rogers. So basically, the medical reformation was I rewrote the internal medicine books because basically for chronic disease they're all stupid. And conventional medicine tries to hide behind this idea. It's like having a pretty girl standing in front of a car to sell the car, okay? And you guys think, if I buy that car, do I get hurt too? And what I mean by that is people think conventional medical doctors are smart. Oh, they had to pass calculus and physics and organic chemistry and get into med school. But here's the news, the real news. Those subjects are irrelevant. College for future physicians is a waste of time. What I'm saying is exactly correct. The carryover between physics and clinical medicine is zero. The carryover between calculus and clinical medicine is zero. The carryover between organic chemistry, you can learn what you need to know of organic chemistry in a month. You don't need 2 full semesters of it. I say that. I'm a triple boarded, Harvard trained, high-tech doctor. I do the most complicated things in medicine, okay? I don't ever use any math I didn't know by 3rd grade. Now, I know there's exceptions to it. There's always exceptions to everything, okay? If you're going to be an electrophysiologist putting in cardiac pacemakers, you need to know a little bit about electricity, okay? But what do doctors need to know in mathematics? Next to nothing. Literally next to nothing. And statistics is a bit of a joke, too. They go, oh, you need to know statistics to read the literature. Yeah, right. When something's true, it's obvious, okay? You can use a sample set of 10 to show that low-fat vegan diet is the best thing for coronary heart disease. The only reason you need these sample sets of 2,000 is when you're trying to prove some drug works and you're trying to get it on some little technicality of or relative risk or some BS like that, okay? Anyways, yeah, so what was my point about chronic disease? Because it's always the same. Every single chapter in an internal medicine book's the same. Well, we don't really know what causes this disease, like hypertension. They'll tell you 95% of the time it's idiopathic, meaning the doctor's an idiot, the patient's pathetic. They don't know what causes it, so they call it essential. And they'll say, well, it's associated with aging. It seems to be partly due to genetics. And, we really don't know much more than that. Sometimes it's due to socioeconomic disparity. Oh, how thoughtful. How mature, how wise, how reasonable. It's all bullshit, okay? You get the poorest African in Kenya, 1929, eats a plant-based diet, he has no hypertension, zero, nada. And the same thing wherever you put the person. You get a rice-eating Asian, they don't have hypertension and diabetes and coronary heart disease, okay? Low-fat, plant-based diets, they don't get hypertension. They don't get diabetes. They don't get coronary heart disease. And if you feed them the high-fiber, plant-based diet, most of the time they fix their leaky gut and their autoimmune disease goes away. The incidents like rheumatoid arthritis hadn't even been described in Africa by about 1957, whereas lupus and autoimmune disease is off the charts in blacks in the USA. You hardly ever see it, in a plant-based community, okay? So what I'm trying to say is we know what causes those diseases most of the time. We know what can cure them or minimize them most of the time. So these books are dishonest, and that's been known for a long, long time. And like I said, that's how it is for all the chronic Western diseases. And none of the doctors know, because doctors, people think they're so smart. What a doctor is they're like a businessman, like an accountant. They're very conformist. They are hardworking. They had to be hardworking to get through med school. And they also know that basically it's very hierarchical in medicine. You salute the rank above you, and the rank above the doctors is the bean counter. Every hospital, every clinic has a bean counter that says, go faster, you need to generate more billing codes. So they're always in a hurry. And they tend to overwork the crap out of them, so they're exhausted all the time. And then there's always the insurance companies that insist you follow a certain series of steps to get paid, generate your billing codes. And then there's Big Pharma, who pays the docs at the big name places doing research to show how good their drugs are. And if the doc doesn't play ball with them and make their drugs look good, the doc doesn't ever get funding again. So the doc has to play ball with them. And you have to play ball with the insurance companies or you don't get paid. So they control medicine. It's not controlled by doctors. It's not controlled by science. That's all nonsense. Okay, you sell drugs, you make money. You sell a lab test, you sell an imaging test, a CAT scan, an MRI, an ultrasound, an X-ray, a colonoscopy. You make money. You teach a patient a vegan diet how to cure themselves. You don't make any money, okay? And that's why I also say only Christian ethics could fix medicine, where somebody will say, We will do what is right for the person because that's a higher goal than to make money. I mean, look at the difference. Low-fat vegan diet with Esselstyn, you maybe get paid $1,000 if you're lucky for a weekend seminar. You do open heart surgery, get paid $200,000. You put in a stent, $30,000 a piece. Put in 2 stents, $60,000. It's a lot of money. Okay, next, multiple sclerosis diet book, Roy Swank. He found 95% of his early diagnosed MS patients, if you put them on a low-fat plant-based diet, especially avoiding saturated fat is the most important thing to do. 95% of them were intact for activity of daily living, ADLs, 32 years later is what he published, but he actually followed them up longer than that. What's missing from medicine? Sarai Stanchik. Okay, she had multiple sclerosis herself, and she was not doing well. She developed it in residency, was in a wheelchair and a diaper, and then she started reading and go, gee, you got identical twins. They don't both get it, so it's not genetic. And then she's like, gee, these foods, these plant foods seem to help in these studies, and these studies seem legit. They're not just trying to sell me something. So she went on a plant-based diet, and she got better, cured herself of MS, and she was able to go back to work again. And she's doing well years later. She wrote a book about it, etc. So I thought that was rather interesting. She said something funny, too. She said, residency teach doctors how to be unhealthy. She says, during residency, you're on call all the time, so you're exhausted. So you don't sleep enough, you're sleep deprived. You're stressed out, okay, so that's not good for your health. And you start drinking a lot of caffeine to stay awake while you're always sleep deprived. All three of those things are very bad. And then you start eating junk food and crap food, vending machines, drug reps bring free lunches, fast food, because you're always in a hurry. You want to grab your food fast. So sleep deprived, caffeinated, stressed out, eating processed food, the worst of the processed food, teaches you to be unhealthy. Okay, China study by T. Colin Campbell. Basically, animal protein dramatically increases the risk of cancer of all types because it activates mTOR. You know, it's more acidic. It's got different amino acid composition than plant-based proteins, a lot more leucine, a lot more methionine, activates mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, a nutrient-sensing pathway. It's like a building contractor waiting until it has all the building materials available. Animal protein gives it what it needs, including iron, including a lot of sat fat. So it says, let the cells grow. You don't want that if you're trying to stop cancer from growing. Caffeine blues is just showing that, you know, caffeine's a joke, okay? They try to tell you caffeine's healthy. Anybody tells you caffeine healthy is bullshitting you, okay? What can be healthy about something that's a vasoconstrictor, like 20% drop in cerebral blood flow, simultaneously increases glutamate transmission. It's about 90% of excitatory neurotransmitters in your cerebral cortex, your brain. So it's excitatory. I mean, it's a stimulant. It's an excitotoxin, and it's a vasoconstrictor. That's double bad. You're increasing brain cell activity while simultaneously dropping brain blood flow. Not good. It increases potassium excretion in your urine, increases magnesium excretion in your urine. Not good. Okay. Life without diabetes. Roy Taylor basically showed 4 years or less of having type 2 diabetes. If they lose 30 pounds or more, they were all cured. And you can see the fatty liver. The fat in the liver is the first. Fatty liver is basically diabetes of the liver. And the fat from the liver is the first thing to get metabolized away if the person loses the weight. So he basically showed it's a walk in the park to cure type 2 diabetes. And as McDougall says, why manage diabetes when you can cure it? All right, well, anyways, those are the top 14. I got a whole bunch more. We'll do them in the next sessions. Hope you found that helpful.